Sup, my homies? This is my thing now. This is how I'm cool. But I am in my new dorm, and I'm really excited about it. And as you can tell, I still have my webcams, but I'm still going to try to give you guys a tour. And we can do this. This can work. Alright. I have my lovely seating area over here. I've got this awkward post in the middle of my room, but as you can tell, I'm making very good use of it. I've got my little cute tote boxes, and then over here is my personal, oh, sorry, camera's up here. Alright, over here is my favorite area, because we have this creepy looking closet thing where I've put my bed and my clothes and other stuff that you don't really need to see. And the ceiling is very low because I'm in the attic. But anyway, alright, we're going back. Alright, we're good. Anyway, this is my new house, and I'm really excited. So I'm going to be making videos from in here a lot now, and it's going to be fun. And maybe I'll give you guys a tour of the rest of the house, because this is the first house I've ever rented, and I feel very grown up because I'm living on my own. Well, with other people, but you know, like on my own. So anyway, today is chapter 6 of A Rock in a Hard Place.
Engage.
Alright, chapter 6. He growled deep in his throat. Beverly Crusher was momentarily startled. She actually took one step back from Stone before saying again, slowly, "It's just a routine physical, Commander. Now remove your uniform top." Stone eyed her up and down. "You first." Crusher blew out air between her teeth. "Not on a first date. Now grow up, Commander. We both have things to do. This is standard operating procedure, and we both know it." "Other exams have been more cursory," he said. "On this starship, the regulations are more stringent," she said tightly. "Now let's go." He considered her statement a moment, and then undid his jacket. Moments later, he pulled the black t-shirt over his head. Beverly had her back turned to him, calibrating some readings on the diagnostic table. She turned back toward him, starting to say, "Let's start with," and then her breath caught in her throat. His chest had a thin mat of black hair that could not begin to cover up the stars crisscrossing his torso. He stared straight ahead as Beverly walked slowly around him and saw similar vicious lacerations on his back. She took several more moments to resume her professional demeanor. When she had, she finished the circle to face Stone once more. "This isn't on your medical record," she said. "So?" "So?" She couldn't conceal her disbelief. "These are serious scars." He didn't even seem to hear her. She decided to try a different approach. "I could remove these scars for you. Any competent doctor could. Don't you understand that?" He had not been looking directly at her. His gaze had been turned inward until that moment. But now he examined her straight on, and she felt uncomfortable with the intensity of his stare. Then slowly, in that deliberate manner that marked all his movements, he tapped his forehead. "Can you remove the scars here?" Beverly realized she'd been holding her clipboard in front of her as if it were a shield. She was quickly beginning to take the measure of this individual and realized that he was someone who appreciated forthrightness. She lowered the clipboard, sending out a silent message that said, "I'm here for you. You can speak to me. I'm open to you." She walked over to him and ran her fingers across his torn back. "How?" she whispered. He took in a deep breath and let it out in a long, unsteady sigh. "Orion pirates," he said softly. "It's what led me to join Starfleet. I've heard they can be vicious." "You heard right." His mind seemed to drift back. "My parents are both wealthy, powerful people, so when I was growing up, I had everything. I was spoiled rotten. I had no particular ambition, didn't care about anything. I had 6 personal cruisers. Can you believe that? 6. Crusher let out a low whistle. Personal cruisers were a luxury item at best. 6 was simply ludicrous. I had everything. I had ships, I had my parents, my wealth, and I had my girlfriend." His eyes misted over. "Gloria. We were going to be married. A week before our wedding, we decided to take an extended trip. You know, our last time together before we became old married folks." "Are you married, Dr. Crusher?" She took a breath. "Widowed." "Oh." He looked deeply sympathetic. "Maybe you don't want to hear this." "No, it's all right." She put a hand on his forearm. "I do. That is, if it will make you feel better. I want to help you." That's very kind of you." His face hardened. Kindness was something those Orion bastards knew nothing about. "You were ambushed by them?" He nodded. "It was a joyride, nothing more. We were still well within the boundaries of Federation territory, and the Orion pirates suddenly they were there. Their captain, his name was Winstein, I'll never forget the leer in that monster's face when he saw Gloria. They took us both, took the ship. He broke off, his chest heaving. Stone put a hand on her shoulder, trying to steady himself, steady the recollections that seemed to be slamming through his brain. I'm sorry, I can't tell you the details. Every night I dream of them. Remember Gloria begging me, screaming my name, pleading for me to do something. But I was helpless. They kept her so that I could watch. They forced me to watch while they... Stone leaned forward, covering his face with his hands. My father, very influential, as I said. He wielded power. He got the Federation to intercede, but it took time. Too much time. Me, they kept around to see how much suffering I could withstand. Slowly, he removed his hand, smiling up at her. I surprised them. I surprised myself. Gloria, she didn't last at all. They killed her? Whispered Beverly. He nodded. Gave her to the Orion slave girls with instructions that they were to break her in. They did. Into pieces. He stared off into nothing for a moment and then turned his eyes toward Beverly. I carried these scars, he whispered, for Gloria. Can you understand that, Doctor? She wrapped one of his hands in both of hers. She was impressed by the strength of it, the size. Controlled power seemed to flow through him. She remembered the face of her own beloved Jack and the searing of her heart his death had inflicted on her. And Wesley. She remembered when Wes had seen her go ashen upon hearing the news. He had looked up at her with those young, innocent eyes and said, Mom? Crusher turned, startled. Acting Ensign Wesley Crusher had entered sickbay, a question poised on his lips. But there was another one in his eyes. He looked at Stone and his mother, quite close, sharing what appeared to be a rather intimate moment. Next to Wesley was a friend of his, Paul Eston, although the nickname he'd acquired around the ship was Scooter. Sturdy and compact, Scooter was a direct contrast to the tall, lanky Wesley. Indeed, Wes had so matured during her time away from the Enterprise that Bev Crusher had hardly recognized him, not realizing until just then how like a young Jack Crusher he was becoming. Scooter snickered. Did we come at a bad time? Then his voice trailed off. Holy Colker, what happened to you? Stone made no reply. Instead, he started to pull on his shirt, saying, Doctor, maybe this could wait until another time. No, she said firmly. Now, Wesley, can you come back later? Sure, automatically extended a hand. Wesley Crusher. Stone took it, shaking it firmly, glancing towards Bev. You have a teenage son? I'm amazed. Bev flashed a quick grin. Stone, he said to Wesley. Quentin Stone. The new first officer, Wesley said. Stone gave him a quick nod. He took Scooter's hand in turn and said briskly, Come on, boy, you have a stronger grip than that. That's it. Scooter increased the pressure as best he could. That's right, you're judged on your handshake. The handshake was originally a way of making sure your opponent wasn't carrying a weapon, but it's also a way of showing that you can defend yourself without a weapon. Wesley nodded towards the scars. Looked like you could have defended yourself better. Wesley, Beverly remonstrated. Stone smiled thinly. Boy's right. We all have fights we wish we could have won. All right, Doctor, let's just get this exam over with. Wesley and Scooter quickly withdrew from sickbay as Stone leaned back on the examination table. The moment the door had closed behind them, Scooter said, Did you see that guy? His body looked like a road map. That's enough, Scooter, said Wesley quickly. Medical stuff is all confidential. We shouldn't be spreading it around. Understand? Oh, absolutely, said Scooter. He minded zipping his mouth and tossing a key away and spread his hands in a gesture that said, Not a word out of me. Stone was walking past Worf's cabin when he heard someone dying. At least that's what it sounded like. Stone could swear the floor was rumbling over under him as a chorus of voices screamed for death to release them from the torture they were undergoing. Amazingly, other people were just walking past as if nothing had happened. What the blazes was wrong with these people? Ignoring the door signal, Stone started to pound on the door. This is Commander Stone, he shouted. Hang on, I'll get security here right away. From inside, the awful wailing stopped and a sharp voice command canceled the lock. The door hissed open and Stone was standing there, fist poised to pound some more. Worf was sitting in the room, cradling what appeared to be some sort of stringed instrument, but the bow was so large, resting across the strings, that it looked more like a weapon. Indeed, if that thing had been making the sounds he just heard, it was more weapon than instrument. Stone looked from the instrument to Worf. What the hell was that? Chuklock, replied Worf. Did you just sneeze? Said Stone. Worf scowled even more deeply than he usually did. Had I sneezed, you would not be standing. Stone took a step in, the door hissing shut behind him. He was still staring incredulously at the instrument. I thought someone was being slaughtered. I see that first officers share a lack of appreciation for quality sound, said Worf. Commander Riker is a superb second in command, but he also does not understand the power of Klingon music. Chusug. Stone rolled this word around in his mouth a moment. Heavy noise, right? Worf blinked. That is a crude translation, yes. You know Klingonese? He shrugged. A smattering. I can understand a little, but I can't speak it worth a damn. I could tell by the way you pronounced Chusug. Stone actually laughed at that. It was the first time he'd laughed since he'd come on board the ship. It wasn't a pleasant sound. I would imagine, said Stone, that mere humans are not able to comprehend the majesty of Klingon music. Most humans, yes, said Worf. I would not think of impugning the skills of so fine a warrior as yourself. Worf nodded approvingly at this. Word around the ship is that you carry the scars of battle yourself. Stone raised an eyebrow at this. Word gets around quickly. I'm surprised at Dr. Crusher, that she would— I doubt she was the source, said Worf. Ah, said Stone thoughtfully. There were two young men, Crusher's son, I believe, in a scooter. That would explain it, said Worf. He paused a moment. It is rare to find a human proud of his scars. Stone nodded slowly. They helped me to remember my parents and their untimely death. Worf had been tuning his Chusug, but now he stopped and looked up. Your parents. That's right. Stone picked up a curious piece of statuary. What's this? Klingon erotica. Stone put it down quickly. Worf never took his eyes off him as he circled Worf's cabin. Worf couldn't help but get the feeling that Stone was checking it for possible traps. Commendable. How were your parents killed? Worf asked. He shot Worf a sidelong glance. I didn't think Klingons were interested in matters of personal nature. I am interested, replied Worf. I lost my parents at a young age. Stone surveyed Worf with new interest. Raised by parents in the Federation? At Worf's slow nod, Stone said, well, that explains it. My parents, he hesitated. My parents were settlers, trying to carve a new life for themselves after difficulties. He smiled. Hardly had 2 credits to scratch together, but they always seemed happy somehow. Never gave up hope. My father, he would see one of those fancy personal cruisers go by and say, someday, that's where we'll be. He then said sadly, never to be. We were on an outpost planet. My father was a hydro farmer. Federation patrol ships only get out there every so often. They knew that. They, prompted Worf. Romulan raiding party. Worf felt a chill go through him, but he said nothing as Stone continued. I'll never forget the sounds. I was 12, maybe 13, and I thought the sky was falling. Sounds of phaser blasts, you know. You never realize what the phaser blast of a ship sounds like until you're on the ground. They're exploding around you. I was running towards home, as if that would have provided me shelter. The next thing I knew, the ground seemed to just blow up right from under me. I was flying. Stone was half smiling. I remember thinking, I guess I'm dead and I'm flying up to heaven now. The next thing I know, he stopped, as if trying to find words. You know Plexicore? Of course, said Worf. It's 2 Grey's listed, some material we use for our own viewports on the Enterprise. Still, very durable. Hang on a second. And we're back. Unbreakable, right? Worf nodded. Stone laughed unpleasantly. Want to hear something? Plexicore can be shattered by the hurtling body of an adolescent when he's propelled by a Romulan explosion. Worf's eyes opened wide at this as he envisioned the impact. You lived through that? Well, obviously, chuckled Stone, sounding remarkably pleasant about such a traumatic experience. I don't remember much. I lay there for several days. I'm not sure how long. I flitted in and out of consciousness. Between the blood loss and the shock, it's a miracle I didn't die. To put it mildly, said Worf. But I didn't. Eventually I was found, my body practically ripped apart. Some locals found me, kind of stitched me back together until Federation ships arrived. Federation surgeons had far more sophisticated techniques, of course, and offered to treat my injuries in a more aesthetic manner. But I refused, because your parents had been killed. He turned to look at Worf. You think I'm crazy? No, said Worf. I know firsthand of the trauma such events can bring about. I see. Stone had walked over to a stand upon which Worf's large silver sash was hanging. He fingered it a moment, turning to Worf, said, Isn't it uncomfortable? Yes. Then why wear it? Because it is uncomfortable. Stone stood, aiding himself by placing his hand against the small of his back. I don't get it. Klingon uniforms are made of metal and leathers. They are sweaty and unpleasant. Such irritation keeps a warrior on edge at all times. Starfleet uniforms are designed for, he made a slight face of distaste, ease of wearing. Far too easy to become complacent. So you wear it to keep you in a nasty mood. That's correct. Stone nodded. It does its job. Thank you. In that moment, the communicator on Worf's uniform beeped at him. Worf tapped it and responded. Picard here, came the clear, crisp summons. I know you're off duty, Lieutenant, but you're needed on the bridge. We have a crisis situation on our hands. I will be there momentarily, said Worf. He had already put down his instrument and reached for the sash. Good, Picard said. Then he added, I wish Commander Riker was here. This is the kind of situation he excels in. Picard out. Worf glanced at Stone, whose expression now matched his name. A second later, Stone's communicator beeped. Stone stood there, his arms at his side, making no effort to return the page. Worf adjusted the sash and surreptitiously checking to make sure the hidden dagger was still in place, scowled at Stone. You shouldn't ignore a page. The communicator beeped again. Of course, Stone said icily. I wouldn't want to risk offending the captain. He tapped the communicator and said briskly, Stone here. Commander Stone, came the stern reply. I am not accustomed to waiting quite that long for a response to a page. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. You're needed on the bridge. He paused. Commander Riker understood the need for alacrity at all times. I trust you do as well. Thank you for making that clear to me, Captain, he said. Riker, I'm sorry. Stone out. He stood there for a moment, his face an expressionless mask. Worf said to him, Commander Riker was a very popular officer. Really? Said Stone with only distant interest. I'll tell you something, Worf. I've never met the guy, and already I'm not crazy about him. And that was Chapter 6.